I think the disadvantage is, I remember earlier on, is as an actor where you're trying to create your own identity, and they're all saying, oh, that looks just like your father. Oh, my God.
Ever looked at a Hollywood legend and thought, wow, his son looks exactly like him? Well, you're not alone. Some of the biggest stars from the Golden Age passed down their talent, charm, and even their signature looks. But what if we compare them at the same age? The results are mind-blowing. Stick around, because some of these father-son duos will make you do a double take. Let's dive in. Number 30, Jack Holt and Tim Holt. What if I told you that one of Hollywood's first big action stars almost lost his entire career because of his mustache? Jack Holt, a silent film legend, was known for his rugged persona, but when movies introduced sound, he struggled. Directors thought his voice didn't match his looks. His son, Tim Holt, had no such problem. Best known for The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, Tim became a Western movie star in his own right. At the same age, the resemblance is uncanny, and their careers reflect an evolving Hollywood. The legacy of tough, cowboy-like characters was passed down perfectly from father to son.
We needed help so desperately. Nobody around here had money to lend us. And then along came a couple of strangers. And we got it. Everyone around here is talking about Robin Hood.
Number 29, Melvin Douglas and Peter Douglas. What happens when a leading man from Hollywood's golden age becomes blacklisted, but still finds a way to win 2 Oscars? Melvin Douglas was a beloved actor, starring alongside Greta Garbo in Ninochka. But during the 1950s, he was caught in the McCarthy-era blacklist for alleged communist ties. While he fought to rebuild his career, his son, Peter Douglas, took a different path as a producer. Though Peter never acted, at the same age their resemblance is undeniable. Melvin's legacy continued through Peter's film work, proving that Hollywood royalty can always find a way to stay in the business.
Eiffel Tower.
And where are we?
Where are we? Now, let me see. Where are we? Ah, here we are. There you are, and here am I. Feel it?
I'm interested only in the shortest distance between these 2 points. Must you flirt?
Well, I don't have to, but I find it natural.
Suppress it.
I'll try.
Number 28, Fred MacMurray and Robert McCrea. Ever heard of an actor who played one of cinema's darkest villains, but also became America's favorite dad? Fred MacMurray shocked audiences in Double Indemnity, proving he could play a cold-blooded murderer. Yet most people remember him as the wholesome father in My 3 Sons. His real-life son, Robert McCrea, didn't step into acting, but their physical resemblance at the same age is shocking. Robert inherited his father's clean-cut Hollywood charm, though he lived a private life. The contrast between Fred's on-screen personas makes you wonder, was he more like the sinister noir villain or the picture-perfect father?
I would have been much happier doing Westerns if horses hadn't entered into it. Because I never felt that I was one with the horse, you know. There was always some space underneath, and except in Smokey, this picture, when I saw the picture, I thought, my gosh, you look pretty good up there. I was on this stallion I'd captured, and I rode pretty well. And then I thought, my God, no wonder you rode well, because I had a fellow who was doing the riding for me, my double.
Number 27, Ray Milland and Daniel Milland. How does an actor go from playing a suave leading man to one of the most disturbing horror villains ever? Ray Milland won an Oscar for The Lost Weekend, but later he horrified audiences in The Man with the X-Ray Eyes. His son, Daniel Milland, never reached his father's level of fame, but their resemblance at the same age is striking. Though Daniel worked in Hollywood, he later turned against the industry. He once said his father's fame was more of a burden than a gift. Unlike his father, Daniel walked away from the cameras, choosing to live in near anonymity.
As the prizes, Ray Milland receives his from Ingrid Bergman for his performance in The Lost Weekend.
I want to present you this award for the best actor of 1945. Ray Milland, lost weekend.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. I'm greatly honored.
Number 26, Eddie Albert and Edward Albert. Can a Hollywood star be both a leading man and a real-life war hero? Eddie Albert, best known for Green Acres, had a secret past. He was a World War II Navy hero who saved 70 Marines during battle. His son, Edward Albert, inherited both his looks and talent, starring in Butterflies Are Free, which won him a Golden Globe. At the same age, the resemblance between them is uncanny, down to their sharp jawlines and warm smiles. Edward also followed his father's passion for activism, particularly in environmental conservation. Their story proves that Hollywood heroes can sometimes be real-life heroes too.
As I looked around, I saw a lot of men in the water, wounded. So I, with my friend who was at the other end, we tried to pick up the wounded, which we did, and we were being fired on. We picked up a dozen or so of wounded, and we did that for about 5 times, and some Marines lost all their equipment. And I said, quickly jump in the boat, and nobody moved. One of them yelled at me, "Did I hear you say you were coming back?" Then one of the Marines said, if you come back, bring us some rifles. And somebody in the back there yelled, "You heard the kid."
Number 25, Robert Taylor and Terrence Taylor. What if Hollywood's most handsome man had a secret that threatened his entire career? Robert Taylor was one of MGM's biggest leading men, known for Waterloo Bridge and Quo Vadis. But in the 1950s, he controversially named suspected communists to the House Un-American Activities Committee, damaging his reputation. His son, Terrence Taylor, stayed out of the spotlight, yet at the same age, he looked like a perfect duplicate of his father. Despite his controversial past, Robert remains a Hollywood icon, and his striking resemblance in Terrence is a reminder of a time when Hollywood's golden boys weren't always so golden.
Tired of expensive, low-effort script writers for your YouTube channel? Autoscripter.ai is the ultimate solution. Say goodbye to low-quality, poorly retention amateur scripts that fail to generate thousands of views for your channel. At a fraction of the cost, Autoscripter.ai helps your videos go viral. In just 3 steps, Autoscripter.ai creates a polished script tailored to your needs. Just input your title concept, select your tone and style. The intuitive interface makes editing and refining effortless, fast, smart, and trusted by hundreds of satisfied users who have already discovered the amazing tool. Start your free trial today and watch Autoscripter.ai transform your YouTube channel. Just click the link in the video description below now.
Number 24, Errol Flynn and Shaun Flynn. What if Hollywood's most famous swashbuckler had a son who vanished without a trace? Errol Flynn, the face of adventure films like The Adventures of Robin Hood, lived a life full of scandal. He was accused of statutory rape and was one of Hollywood's wildest partiers. His son, Shaun Flynn, followed in his footsteps, but his story took a tragic turn. Shaun left Hollywood to become a photojournalist in Vietnam, where he mysteriously disappeared in 1970. He was never seen again. The resemblance between them at the same age is eerie, almost as if Shaun was destined for a similarly dangerous life.
My spurs are wings, reckon I'm in love. I met a certain someone who makes me feel...
Number 23, James Cagney and James Cagney Jr. How does a man go from playing Hollywood's toughest gangsters to being a quiet farmer? James Cagney, the star of Public Enemy, was a real-life tough guy, once punching a director who disrespected him. At the same age, his son, James Cagney Jr., had his father's signature look, but none of his on-screen aggression. Jr. never fully pursued acting and instead lived a much quieter life. It's fascinating to think that Hollywood's most feared gangster could raise a son who wanted nothing to do with the business. Cagney Sr. famously said, "Acting is great, but peace is better."
One of my favorites was The Seven Little Boys because that movie gave me a chance to act and dance with Jimmy Cagney. And I was going to conclude my remarks by saying that everything I know about dancing and acting, I learned from Jimmy Cagney. But AFI said, look, it's his night. Why depress him? I know that everyone within the sound of my voice has his own special memories of you, Jimmy, whether as a co-worker or a movie fan. So on behalf of them, I take the privilege of saying to you, Jim, thanks for the memories.
Number 22, Lon Chaney and Lon Chaney Jr. What if your father was a man so mysterious, no one even knew what his real voice sounded like? Lon Chaney, the man of 1,000 faces, was Hollywood's first horror superstar, but he never spoke in his films, keeping his real voice a secret. His son, Lon Chaney Jr., took on his father's legacy, playing the Wolfman and other horror icons. At the same age, they looked strikingly similar, almost as if the horror legend was reborn in his son. Despite Chaney Jr.'s success, he always felt trapped in his father's shadow, saying, "I was always just the son." Number 21, Douglas Fairbanks and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. Imagine being born into Hollywood royalty and having to live up to your father's impossible legacy. Douglas Fairbanks, the original silent film action star, set the standard for adventure movies. His son, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., looked exactly like him at the same age, but had to prove he was more than just the Prince of Hollywood. Unlike his father, he joined the Navy and became a real-life war hero in World War II. Later, he built his own acting career, starring in films like Gunga Din. Fairbanks Jr. once said, "Being my father's son was both a gift and a curse."
After the fantastic success of The Mikado, somebody once referred to Ruddigore as a failure, but Gilbert, who had just made 7,000 pounds from the opera, said he would like a few more failures just like that. Well, I imagine his bank manager would have agreed, don't you? By the way, in case you're confused by the word baronet, let me explain that it's a fairly old hereditary English title. It passed from father to his eldest son, and so on down the line. Very simply, it's just not so high as a lord.
Number 20, Spencer Tracy and John 10 Brock Tracy. What if one of Hollywood's greatest actors lived a secret double life? One the public never fully knew. Spencer Tracy was a two-time Oscar winner, famous for Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. But behind closed doors, he struggled with alcoholism and guilt over his son, John 10 Brock Tracy, who was born deaf. At the same age, John bore an eerie resemblance to his father, but their relationship was complex. Spencer stayed married, but had a decades-long affair with Katharine Hepburn. His struggle with faith and personal demons contrasted sharply with his polished public image, making him a deeply conflicted legend.
Hope we haven't ruined your day.
Oh, no, not at all, not at all. After all, it kept me off the streets and out of the pool rooms.
What's the matter, sir?
Nothing.
Sure.
Well, I don't know. I can't quite figure you out. Well, what are you trying to prove? Why am I here?
Well, Sam, I
After all, you know, little Nermo could have driven you down here. Why did you ask me?
thought you might want to kiss me goodbye.
Number 19, Clark Gable and John Clark Gable. Imagine being the son of Hollywood's most dashing leading man, but never getting to meet him. Clark Gable, the undisputed king of Hollywood, died before his son, John Clark Gable, was born. With his father's strong jaw and magnetic gaze, John grew up in the shadow of a legend he never knew. At the same age, the resemblance is undeniable. But rather than follow in his father's footsteps, John chose racing over acting. He once said, "I never wanted to be compared to him." His life was full of near-death experiences. Some say he was cursed by the weight of fame.
And this is where our real job begins. We're in the graduate school of gunnery now, learning it in combat, trying to put it on the film. trying to... I'm sorry, I don't know what that is.
Number 18, John Carradine and the Carradine brothers. What if a Hollywood dynasty was haunted by both incredible talent and deep tragedy? John Carradine, the gritty character actor of classics like The Grapes of Wrath, fathered 3 famous sons, David, Keith, and Robert Carradine. But their story is not all Hollywood glamour. At the same age, David Carradine, star of Kung Fu, mirrored his father's striking face. However, his mysterious death in a Bangkok hotel room in 2009 sparked wild theories. Some called it an accident, others suspected foul play. The Carradine family is a mix of brilliance and tragedy, proving that Hollywood royalty comes at a cost.
First of all, we would like to thank everyone for their heartfelt expressions of love and sympathy. This is a devastating loss for our family, and we appreciate the compassion pouring in from all over the world. And we wish to express our gratitude to the government of Thailand and the Lumpini Police Station in Bangkok for their support and cooperation, and to the U.S. Department of State for their assistance. And the investigation is ongoing. A second autopsy was performed by Dr. Michael Baden.
Number 17, Henry Fonda and Peter Fonda. What if you grew up idolizing your father, only to rebel against everything he stood for? Henry Fonda was Hollywood's moral compass, playing noble roles in 12 Angry Men. But his son Peter Fonda took the rebellious route, shaking up the film industry with Easy Rider. At the same age, their resemblance was uncanny, but their values clashed. Henry was strict and distant, while Peter embraced the counterculture. Their relationship was strained for years, but before Henry's death, they reconciled. Peter once said, "I spent most of my life proving I wasn't him." 2 legends, 2 different Hollywoods.
Well, maybe it's like Casey says. The fella ain't got a soul of his own, just a little piece of a big soul. The one big soul that belongs to everybody. Then...
Number 16, Kirk Douglas and Michael Douglas. Can a father and son both dominate Hollywood, yet have completely different lives? Kirk Douglas fought his way to fame, surviving poverty and a near-fatal helicopter crash. His son, Michael Douglas, inherited his father's famous cleft chin and intense screen presence. But his personal life was even wilder. At the same age, Michael was known for Wall Street and had an explosive personal life, including rehab and his son's arrest. Kirk famously denied Michael a dime until he made it on his own. Their complicated bond was one of respect, rivalry, and legacy, a Hollywood dynasty built on ambition and fire.
I think the advantage is that you were able to see your father as a movie star, his friends, Burt Lancaster, Gregory Peck, others, Tony Curtis, all of them coming last, Frank Sinatra. And you see them with their own foibles. You see them as regular people who had issues just like everybody else. And it took a lot of that pizzazz out of the thing, and I think helped you conduct your own life in a more practice, easier way. You weren't affected by all the stuff like a lot of people who never come in before. So that was a big advantage. I think the disadvantage is, I remember earlier on, is as an actor where you're trying to create your own identity, and they're all saying, "Oh, that looks just like your father."
Number 15, John Wayne and Patrick Wayne. What if your father was the most famous cowboy in history, but you had to prove yourself without his shadow? John Wayne, the face of American masculinity, ruled Westerns with true grit. His son, Patrick Wayne, looked like a younger clone, but the industry wasn't as kind to him. At the same age, Patrick starred in Sinbad and Eye of the Tiger, but he never escaped comparisons to the Duke. Behind closed doors, John Wayne was far from the tough guy. He had cancer, complicated political views, and regrets about his personal life. Patrick inherited more than looks. He inherited a legacy.
Under the wide, starry sky, take the grave and let me lie. Glad did I live and gladly die. And I laid me down with a will. This be the verse you grave for me. Here he lies where he longed to be.
Number 14, Robert Mitchum and James Mitchum. What if your father was Hollywood's ultimate bad boy, and you were expected to follow in his footsteps? Robert Mitchum, the coolest rebel of old Hollywood, was once arrested for marijuana in the 1940s, shocking fans. His son, James Mitchum, inherited the same brooding eyes and tough guy image, starring in Thunder Road, a cult classic about moonshine runners. But unlike his father, James never reached Hollywood's elite. At the same age, the resemblance was uncanny, but James lacked Robert's effortless charisma. Robert was once asked if James would become a big star. His response, "Hell, I don't know. I never tried."
I'm praying for rain in California.
Number 13, Gregory Peck and his sons. What happens when Hollywood's most noble actor hides deep family pain? Gregory Peck, immortalized as Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird, embodied wisdom and kindness. But in real life, he suffered a tragedy no parent should endure. His son, Jonathan Peck, took his own life at 31. At the same age, Jonathan looked just like his father, but he struggled with depression. Gregory was devastated and rarely spoke about it publicly. His other sons, Stephen and Anthony, carried his resemblance and legacy in different ways, but the pain of loss lingered. Even Hollywood's most dignified man had his heartbreaks.
What would have been the parts that you consider yourself to have been most successful?
To Kill a Mockingbird seemed to be a part which I could make my own.
Number 12, Lloyd Bridges and his sons. What if a Hollywood blacklist couldn't keep a family from rising to greatness? Lloyd Bridges, known for Sea Hunt, was once accused of communist ties during the Red Scare, nearly losing his career. But he fought back, making an epic comeback. At the same age, his son Jeff Bridges was becoming an icon himself, starring in The Big Lebowski. Jeff, along with his brother Beau, inherited their father's laid-back charm and undeniable talent. Lloyd once said, "I wanted my sons to be better than me," and he got his wish. Jeff became an Oscar winner, cementing their Hollywood dynasty.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit smoking. Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking. Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines. Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Number 11, Walter Huston and John Huston. What if a father and son both won Oscars, but had completely opposite personalities? Walter Huston was a respected but humble actor, while his son John Huston became a rebellious, womanizing director who loved life on his terms. At the same age, they looked eerily similar, but their careers took different paths. John directed The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, making Walter the oldest actor to win an Oscar at the time. But John had a wild personal life, 5 wives, and countless affairs. He once said, "The only thing better than making movies is chasing women." Hollywood royalty with a scandalous twist.
Growing up in a filmmaking family, I often remember being told my father had to go away to work. My earliest memory of being on a movie set was when my father made Moby Dick. I was less than 4 years old, but I remember meeting Greg Peck, and I remember the whales.
Number 10, Bing Crosby and his sons. What if the man who serenaded the world with White Christmas harbored a chilling secret behind closed doors? Bing Crosby, the iconic crooner, was adored by millions, but his eldest son Gary painted a starkly different picture. In his memoir, Going My Own Way, Gary alleged that Bing was a strict disciplinarian who administered severe punishments, leading to a strained father-son relationship. These revelations shocked fans and sparked debates about the complexities of Crosby's private life versus his public persona. The Crosby family's story serves as a poignant reminder that even the most celebrated figures can have deeply troubled personal lives.
According to Gary Crosby's infamous Daddy Dearest Tell All, Bing's fatherly love left a lot to be desired. After the death of the boy's mother, actress-singer Dixie Lee, Bing and his brood became seriously estranged.
Number 9. Tyrone Power and Tyrone Power Jr. Imagine being a Hollywood heartthrob whose untimely death left fans and family in shock. Tyrone Power, celebrated for his swashbuckling roles, tragically succumbed to a heart attack at just 44 while filming Solomon and Sheba in Spain. His son, Tyrone Power Jr., born posthumously, inherited his father's striking looks and pursued acting, though he remained under the looming shadow of his father's legacy. The Power family's narrative is a blend of cinematic triumphs and personal tragedies, highlighting the fleeting nature of fame and life.
I'm Tyrone Power, and I want to tell you about a crusade to save life. This is the symbol of hope, the symbol of the American Cancer Society. It is a symbol of progress against cancer. But we are still losing too many we love: mothers, husbands, and children.
Number 8. Vincent Price and Vincent Barrett Price. What if the master of macabre had a son who shunned the limelight? Vincent Price, renowned for his eerie performances in horror classics, passed down his distinctive features to his son, Vincent Barrett Price. However, unlike his father, Barrett chose a life away from Hollywood's glare, focusing on academia and art curation. Their contrasting paths underscore the diverse directions a legacy can take, with Barrett honoring his father's love for the arts in a more subdued manner.
Smart and a little bit evil. The very best kind of voice you can have.
Suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door.
Number 7. Joel McCrea and Jody McCrea. Can a Western film legend's son step into his boots and ride into the sunset of fame? Joel McCrea, a stalwart of Western cinema, was known for his rugged on-screen presence. His son, Jody McCrea, inherited his father's chiseled features and ventured into acting, notably in the beach party films of the 1960s. Despite their physical resemblance, Jody struggled to escape his father's formidable shadow, eventually retiring from acting to pursue a quieter life. Their story reflects the challenges of living up to a legendary legacy in Hollywood. Number 6. Charlton Heston and Fraser Clark Heston. What if the star of Ben-Hur had a son who not only mirrored his looks, but also directed him on screen? Charlton Heston, famed for his epic roles, had a son, Fraser Clark Heston, who bore a striking resemblance to him. Fraser not only acted alongside his father as an infant Moses in the Ten Commandments, but later directed Charlton in films like Treasure Island. Their collaboration showcased a unique father-son dynamic, blending familial bonds with professional artistry in Hollywood's golden era.
I'm back. I'm home. All the time.
Number 5. Orson Welles and Christopher Welles. Imagine being the child of a cinematic genius whose personal life was as tumultuous as his films were groundbreaking. Orson Welles, the mastermind behind Citizen Kane, had a daughter, Christopher Welles, who experienced a childhood marked by her father's absences and larger-than-life persona. Despite their physical similarities, Christopher often felt distant from her enigmatic father, highlighting the complexities of growing up in the shadow of a genius. Their relationship underscores the often overlooked personal costs of artistic brilliance.
Good evening. I'm Orson Welles. Tonight, broadcasting takes a giant leap backward. In this age of living color and stereophonic sound, the television show Moonlighting is daring to be different and share with you a monochromatic, monophonic hour of entertainment.
Number 4, Yul Brynner and Rock Brynner. What if the King of Siam had a son who rocked the academic world? Yul Brynner, celebrated for his role in The King and I, had a son, Rock Brynner, who inherited his father's striking looks and charismatic presence. However, Rock chose a path divergent from Hollywood, becoming a historian and author. Their story exemplifies how the progeny of celebrities can forge their own identities, balancing the weight of a famous surname with personal ambitions.
This is Rock's book about his dad, Yul, the man who would be king. A reference, obviously, Rock, to his fabled and Oscar-winning performance as the King and I.
Mm-hmm.
Was he that person? Was he that strutting, exotic, royal person?
Well, the King was a character who he created and helped Rodgers and Hammerstein create this character. And he did this at the age of 31 when he was at his creative height. I should mention that unlike Nigel and Randy and Barbara, I've written a book about my own father.
Number 3, Humphrey Bogart and Stephen Humphrey Bogart. Can the son of Hollywood's quintessential tough guy carve out his own niche away from the silver screen? Humphrey Bogart, the iconic star of Casablanca, had a son, Stephen Humphrey Bogart, who inherited his father's distinctive features, but opted for a career as an author and television producer. Stephen's choice to step away from acting highlights the diverse paths celebrity offspring can take, navigating the legacy of their parents while pursuing their own passions.
And I'd watched it, and my perspective on my story was a lot different than hers. She looked at him as her mentor.
Number 2, Lon Chaney Jr. and Ron Chaney. What if the Wolfman's son chose to preserve his family's horror legacy behind the scenes? Lon Chaney Jr., famous for his portrayal of the Wolfman, had a son, Ron Chaney, who, while bearing a resemblance to his father, focused on maintaining the Chaney family's contributions to horror cinema through preservation and promotion. Their story underscores the importance of legacy and the various ways it can be honored beyond the spotlight. Number 1, James Stewart and Michael Stewart. Imagine being the son of America's most beloved actor, yet choosing a life far removed from Hollywood's glare. James Stewart, known for classics like It's a Wonderful Life, had a son, Michael Stewart, who inherited his father's wholesome appearance but pursued a career in the military. Their narrative highlights the diverse paths taken by children of celebrities, balancing personal aspirations with the weight of a famous lineage. Some of these look so identical it's scary. Which father-son duo surprised you the most? Drop a comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing Hollywood stories.